80 years. 80 damn years, I was quiet most of my life. When you get to my age, you don't look back at the big mistakes first. You look at the small ones.
Silence feels safe when you're young. It feels mature, responsible, strong. It isn't. These days I sit in a small living room with one chair that creaks when I lower myself into it. My hands shake when I hold my tea. The television stays off more often than it's on. There's no one here to argue with about what channel to watch.
My wife's photograph is still on the shelf.
46 years of marriage, and most of them lived between things we never talked about. Her name was Samina. She laughed easily when we first met. I remember that laugh more clearly than I remember yesterday's breakfast. We were 24 when we married. I was ambitious. I had plans. I wanted to be respected. I wanted to build something solid so no one could ever say I failed. She wanted something simpler. She wanted me home for dinner. At the time, that felt small, almost childish. Didn't she understand what I was trying to build? Didn't she see that I was doing it for us? That's what I told myself. In my 30s, I worked late almost every night. Promotions came slowly, but they came. Each one felt like proof that the sacrifice was worth it. When she tried to talk about how lonely she felt, I would nod and say, "It's just for now." Just for now became a habit. She would stand in the kitchen doorway while I loosened my tie. She would say, "We don't talk anymore." And I would shrug. I would say, "There's nothing wrong." That was my specialty, pretending nothing was wrong. It wasn't that I didn't care. That's the part that hurts the most now. I cared deeply. I just believed caring quietly was enough. I grew up in a house where men didn't explain themselves. My father never apologized to my mother. He never told her he loved her either. But he paid the bills. He fixed the roof. He did what a man was supposed to do. I thought that was love. So when Samina cried in the bedroom at night, I lay there stiff beside her. I stared at the ceiling. I told myself she was emotional, that it would pass. She once asked me, "Why won't you fight for me?" I didn't even understand the question. I thought not fighting was a good thing. I didn't know she meant fighting for the marriage, fighting for closeness, fighting to be heard and to hear. Silence is a slow poison. You don't taste it at first. In our 40s, our children were teenagers. They learned from me without me ever teaching them. That's the frightening thing about being a father. My son stopped telling me about school. My daughter stopped asking for advice. They went to their mother instead. I told myself that was normal. Children are closer to their mothers. But the truth was simpler. I was hard to approach, not angry, not cruel, just closed. I remember one evening clearly. My daughter stood near the door, holding a letter in her hand. She looked nervous. "I need to talk to you," she said. I was tired. There had been a problem at work. A man under me had made a mistake, and I had defended him in a meeting. It cost me influence. I was irritated. "Can it wait?" I asked. She hesitated. "It's important." And I said the sentence that echoes in my head even now. "Everything feels important at your age." She didn't speak to me about it again. Years later I found out that letter was from a university overseas. She had been accepted. She wanted my opinion, my support. She didn't go. She married young instead, moved to another city. We speak on holidays now, short calls, polite, careful. My son left at 22. We shook hands at the airport, a handshake. What kind of father shakes his son's hand when he leaves home? I thought it was manly, strong. It was distance. Samina tried, even in her 50s, to reach me. She would sit beside me on the sofa and say, "Tell me what you're feeling." I would say, "I'm fine." I always said I was fine. Fine is the loneliest word in the language. The turning point didn't come with shouting. There was no dramatic fight, no broken plates. It came quietly. She was 67 when the doctor found the lump. Even then, I stayed silent. Not about appointments. I drove her to everyone. I sat in every waiting room. I paid for every treatment. But I never told her I was afraid. She would look at me with tired eyes and say, "Are you scared?" And I would answer, "No, we'll handle it. We'll handle it," as if cancer were a leaking pipe. One night, near the end, she was in the hospital bed at home. Machines hummed softly. The room smelled like medicine and something else I don't like to remember. She reached for my hand. Her grip was weak, her voice weaker. "I needed you to talk to me," she whispered. "All these years." I felt something break open in my chest. 40 years of unsaid things pressing against my ribs. I wanted to tell her everything in that moment. That I loved her more than I knew how to show. That I was afraid of failing her. That I thought silence was strength. That I was wrong. But I had practiced silence for so long that words felt foreign. I said, "You know I love you." She smiled a little, not because it was enough, but because she was kind. She died 3 days later. The house became unbearably loud after that, not with noise, with memory. I walk past the kitchen doorway and see her standing there, asking me to talk. I sit in the bedroom and hear her crying softly beside me. You don't understand the cost of silence until there's no one left to break it with. After she died, I tried to change. That's the cruel part. Change came easily when there was no one left who needed it. I called my daughter and told her I was proud of her. There was a long pause on the line. "Thank you, Dad," she said, polite again. I told my son I loved him. He cleared his throat. "Love you too," he replied, like he was reading it from somewhere. They had built lives without my voice in them, strong lives, full lives. I am grateful for that, but I am not central in them. I am a visitor. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had spoken earlier, if I had said, in my 30s, "I don't know how to do this, but I want to try." If I had told my daughter, "I'm proud of you. Go. The world is yours." If I had hugged my son at the airport instead of shaking his hand. Regret from failure is sharp but clean. You can see it. Regret from delay is different. It's fog. It spreads everywhere. It settles into ordinary days. I did not cheat. I did not abandon my family. I did not raise my voice often. I simply stayed silent. And that was enough to create distance so wide it could not be crossed later. Now, when I sit alone in the evenings, I talk out loud sometimes. It surprises me, the sound of my own voice in an empty room. I tell her things. I tell her about the weather, about the neighbor's new car, about how our granddaughter won a school award. I practice being the man I should have been when she could still hear me. Do you know what the hardest part is? It's not that she died. It's that she lived beside me for decades, asking for something simple, and I convinced myself she was asking for too much. Presence is not complicated. It just requires courage, and I did not have it. If you are younger than me, you might think you understand. You might nod and say, "You won't make the same mistake." I thought that too once. Silence feels harmless in the moment. It feels like you're avoiding conflict, preserving peace, being mature. But unspoken words don't disappear. They stack up between two people like bricks. One day you look up and there's a wall where a door used to be. I am not a bitter man. I am grateful for the years we had, for the meals she cooked, for the way she would hum while folding laundry, for the way she squeezed my hand during movies. Gratitude and sorrow can live in the same place. They do in me. I sit with both. If this meant something to you, I hope it's not because you see yourself in me completely. I hope it's just enough to make you speak one sentence you've been holding back. Tell someone you're afraid. Tell someone you're proud. Tell someone you were wrong. Don't wait for a hospital room to make you brave. At 83, bravery feels useless. There is no one left here who needs it from me the way she did. The clock on the wall ticks loudly at night. I count the seconds sometimes. Each one feels like a small reminder. Time was never the problem. I was. And now I am learning to live with that truth. Quietly.